Awesome. Hi, everybody. I am not going to make you do burpees today, although that's most of the context that you see me in. Thanks for coming to Routine Reset. So David already gave some background about what we're doing here. But at the beginning of the pandemic, Tequila had an amazing idea of a way to bring our community closer together at a time where we really had to be separate. So Routine Reset was born. It was a 6-week webinar, and this is the first year we actually get to do it in person. We got a really great response for it, so we're excited to continue to grow this program. Over the next 6 weeks, you're going to get to explore a lot of different health and wellness topics while taking classes here at Fulcrum. It's a really big proponent of our gym that wellness extends beyond your physical, burpees, push-ups, well-being. Over the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk about habit building. We're going to talk about recovery, nutrition, food relationship, all sorts of topics that come together to really build a holistic idea of health. And hopefully we can support you as you explore some of these other ideas that accompany the workouts that you do here. Cool? All right. So to start off, I'm going to be leading our webinar about habit building and goal setting, a stress-free guide to making small and sustainable changes. Because while habit building sounds really relaxing, when we actually try to do it, sometimes it is incredibly stressful. So before we jump in today, a little bit about me. My name is Brittany, but you guys can call me B. I am from Minnesota. That means my O's are going to come out hard and fast. I would appreciate you not making fun of me for it. I've been in wellness for about 10 years. I know you're like, Brittany, you look so youthful and glowing. Thank you. Keep it coming. My job has varied over the course of my time in fitness and wellness, but one thing's been really consistent. I help people and help groups of people reach their goals, identify their goals, make a plan for it, and reach those goals. So today I'm going to distill some of those things that I do with my clients and communities with you guys today. There's one other very, very important thing you need to know about me, and it's that I'm obsessed with my cat, Bruce. He is a handsome devil. You would be obsessed with him too if he lived in your house. Oh my God, he's the best. He's so freaking cute. All right, so before we begin today, we're all here because we want to adjust and revitalize our wellness habits. It's important to recognize that a lot has changed over the past 2 years. When we think about creating new habits and goals, we want to maintain a present and future mindset. So a lot has changed. David talked about it a little bit, right? So small habits have adjusted, right? We're all wearing masks today. That's a new habit we picked up, right? Social distancing as well. We also picked up different ways that we interact with each other, right? So the way that we work, the way that we go to school, even the way that we interact with each other here at the gym has changed over the course of 2 years. And a bigger thing that we don't often talk about is our values. A lot of us have thought about what's important in our lives, what we spend time on, what we make sacrifices for, what is really at the forefront. And it's important before we go into goal setting and habit tracking to keep that in mind. A lot of times when I'm working with somebody and they want to build a new habit, the first thing that'll come up is, I want my body from high school. Yeah. I want my post-COVID body back. I want to run 5 miles like I did in college every day. Those goals can be great inspiration, but having that back mindset is really difficult because we live in a different world. You're a different person, and it's a different set of circumstances. So I encourage you, if that kind of thought resonated with you as I spoke about it, to just keep that in mind as you're setting your goal for today. Make sure it's not something that's in the past, but rather a little bit more forward thinking and realistic for the new context that we all live in. Now that we have that in mind, let's talk a little bit about how sometimes we go about making a goal, right? Because y'all have made a goal before in your life, right? Everybody? Yeah. Not a new concept. We're not doing rocket science. But here's what I typically see happen with people, and AKA people is myself. We start off with a should statement, right? I should work out more. I should be eating better. I should be stretching more. And typically that's associated with a kind of negative thought, right? That's not really a positive thing to say. Nobody likes being told what they should do. So we say, okay, I should do this thing. We have this negative thought, and then we go into a reaction about it. And that reaction can be a number of things. Sometimes we go too deep into Google. Oh my gosh, we go so deep, right? Say, I should eat better. Okay, I'm going to Google every type of diet that exists and every contrary opinion about diet that's out there. And I'm going to research so much that I become overwhelmed. I have all this information. I have no idea what to do with it. Another reaction that can sometimes happen is we do that Google search and we jump right into something brand new, right? And we overwhelm ourselves with something new without taking the time to set up a goal for ourselves. And again, we kind of lead into some overwhelm. Obviously, when we do our overwhelm, eventually we break that habit because it's overwhelming. A little bit of guilt comes into it. You set a goal, you didn't make it, that sucks. And then we go back to our should statement, right? So an example of this would be, I should work out more, right? I shouldn't be sitting around all day. All right, our reaction is, I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to work out straight for an entire month. Yeah? Oh, gosh, that's super overwhelming. You do that. Eventually you cave. You don't do anything for an entire week. You sit on your butt. You feel a little guilty about it. And then we're back to our should thought, right? So this is a cycle that sometimes we can get stuck in. And as we go through today, I'm going to hopefully give you some tools that will help break the should cycle. I also like to add a little note. Sometimes our shoulds aren't internal. Yeah. Sometimes our shoulds come from outside sources. It can be social media. It could be a friend that says like, man, this program absolutely works for me. You know, do what works for you. And I'm going to encourage you as we go through this to figure out what feels best for you as we create a goal for the next 6 weeks together. So know that sometimes those shoulds are internal, but also recognize when some of those shoulds come from external sources. All right, that's a lot of talking. What are we actually going to do about it? So we're going to grab a new approach. Everybody should have a pencil and some paper. Our next few slides, we're going to be doing a couple writing exercises that will help us develop a goal for the rest of Routine Reset. So we have 6 weeks ahead of us of unlimited classes, unlimited resources. So over the course of today's presentation, I encourage you to really think about a goal that you would like to do for the next 6 weeks. And we're going to go ahead and create that together here today. So our first writing prompt, we're going to talk about our perfect day. So before we dive into, all these different tactics to making a habit work, we're going to establish what we actually want our habit to be. So we're going to do a simple exercise. We're going to set a timer for 2 minutes. Kayla, would you mind grabbing a timer for 2 minutes here in a second? We're going to take 2 minutes. You're going to write down your perfect day from start to finish. When would you wake up? What would you do with your day? How would you do it? How would you feel when you were doing it? And then when we finish that 2 minutes, we're going to circle one aspect of that day that we're going to focus in on for the rest of our presentation. Cool? All right, DK, would you mind setting the timer? 2 minutes. Wow, so much things you could do in 2 minutes. I'll take the time to say hi to everybody at home. Thanks for joining. I hope you have a pen and paper at home. You also have 2 minutes to write down your perfect day. It's great to see y'all. I feel like I should have some Jeopardy music. Oh, thank you. All right, guys, so go ahead, and that was about 2 minutes. So now I want you to go ahead and look at that day and just take a second here to circle one aspect of that. Ideally, make it a realistic aspect. So if you wrote down, I'm going to wake up on a yacht in the middle of the, you know, a Thai beach somewhere like that, we probably aren't going to help you with that, unfortunately. So, pick a relevant part of the day. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You could. It's a different presentation. I could probably help you do that too, but that's a very different thing I'd be teaching you to do. All right, guys. So now that we have that circled, we're going to head into our next writing prompt, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about them. So next thing, we have that thing that we circled. So we isolated that part of our perfect day that we're going to focus on. Next up, we're going to find our why. So hard part's done. We picked a thing. So now we're going to dig a little bit deeper and figure out why we want to change it. We're going to take an honest look at why, because this is sometimes something that we overlook. So we're going to set another 2-minute timer, and you can draw a line or do it in the next portion of your sheet. But we're going to take 2 minutes, and I want you to write down every single reason why you want that thing that you circled. And I want you to be super honest about it. Yeah, nobody's going to see this but you. Write down every single reason you could think of. Don't hold back. Yeah. So Dakayla's going to go ahead and set a 2-minute timer for us and go crazy. Write down every reason you want that thing. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. They'll be going up tomorrow. Wow. Thanks for helping us learn live stream, people. It's our first hybrid one, so we're still working out some things. Thank you. Want me to count it down like it's hit? You count it down like it's hit? No. All right, guys. So that was about 2 minutes there. So now that we've written out an extensive list of why we want to do that thing, I want you to go ahead and circle 3 of those reasons that jump out the most to you, the ones that feel like the most calling reasons. Don't think about it too much, just whichever ones jump out at you, go ahead and circle those first 3. Awesome. So before we head to the next slide here, we're going to talk a little bit about those 2 prompts and what we wrote down. So in our finding our why, the 3 things that you circled are actually going to be the goals that we focus on for the rest of the presentation. Now, I know that might seem maybe a little confusing, right? Isn't the habit the goal that I have? The habit's actually going to be what supports these whys. And the reason I like to structure it this way is it gives us a lot of room to actually accomplish what we want. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we set a goal of I want to work out 5 times a week so that I feel strong. Well, let's say you do that and you work out 5 times a week, but that is way too much for your body. You start to feel really tired. You're not recovering between workouts. And it gets to the point where maybe you're only giving like 60% effort to a workout that you typically would give a lot more to. All right, well, that goal isn't really helping us with our why. Instead, if we set our goal as I want to feel stronger or something associated with your why. So in that example, I want to feel stronger. I want to add 20 pounds to my squat. Yeah. We can then change our habits so it fits. So if we start off with, okay, I'm going to work out 5 days a week to reach to that goal of feeling stronger or to reach to that goal of lifting a little heavier. And we realize partway through, oh gosh, 5 days a week isn't getting me closer to my goal. It gives us the flexibility to change it, right? So we can go back and be like, this isn't helping my goal. No shame, no guilt. We adjust our plan, we adjust our habits so that it gets us closer to our goal. So those first 3 things that you circled here, we're going to go ahead and work around those as our goals. And then the habit that you found in your perfect day is going to be one of the things that's going to support us to our goal as we continue to build a plan together. So next up, we're going to consider conditions. So right now we have 3 goals in mind. Yeah. We have a habit that's going to get us to those 3 goals. And now we're going to consider the conditions that go around that. We'll look at conditions needed to nurture our habits and our goals. This is where we'll explore what needs to be in place in order for your habit to stick. We don't believe in willpower here. It just won't do it. Consider how you can set yourself up for success and nurture this habit and this goal long term. So we're going to go ahead and take another moment to write out some things. 2 minutes will be our time. And we're going to write out every single condition that we're going to need for that goal. So you're going to write down, do you need to set a calendar reminder? Do you need to purchase anything for it? Do you need to tell a friend? Do you need anything and everything to make that happen? So we're going to take 2 minutes here and go ahead and write out all the conditions that you would need in order to do your habit and to get closer to your why. 2 minutes. All right, and we'll go ahead and have you finish up that list of conditions. And now as we're finishing up that list, we're going to circle some stuff again, right? Are you sensing a theme here today? And we're going to go ahead and circle anything that's an absolute must-have. So as you look at your list, there's probably some things that are like, okay, maybe that's like a want. Maybe I don't really need that. Circle anything that you're like, yes, this 100% needs to be in place. Otherwise, I'm not gonna do what I said I'm gonna do. So anything doesn't have to be a limited number. You could circle your entire list if it really felt like it. Awesome. So we're making progress, right? We've established a habit that we're focused on. We've established our why and our goals that that habit supports. And now we've established what conditions we need in order to make that habit happen and to get closer to our goal that that habit supports. So now we're finally at the point where we get to make a plan and talk a little bit about habit building and some of the different techniques that people use to do it. This is the point where usually people start, right? So going back to our first slide, we usually start with all these fun habit building techniques, but the fact that you laid out the foundation of why and the conditions and what the habit is going to make this next part a lot easier. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and talk about some habit building techniques. And we'll just touch on a couple that we've seen a lot of people at Fulcrum and a lot of my clients have a lot of success with. Some of these might seem pretty silly, or maybe ones that you've already heard of. But yeah, take what sounds good to you. So our first one is the buddy system. And honestly, I think all of us like the buddy system. That's why we come to group classes, right? It's for that physical accountability. So there's a handful of ways that we can do the buddy system. It can be very much exactly how it sounds, right? Working out with a friend, having that accountability that's very direct with another person. It can obviously be coming to groups or doing programs like Routine Reset, where you're involved with a group of people towards the same goal. I also like to point out the buddy system in a way that's a little less apparent. How would I describe it? So the buddy system can sometimes work in an indirect way. Let's say you go to a class at Fulcrum and you go every Monday at 6:30 a.m. You won't see me there, but you see another person there. And you don't know their name. You haven't really ever talked to them, but you see them. You see them every single time. And then all of a sudden, you don't see them for a while, right? And you don't see them for a couple weeks, and you think about it. You go, oh gosh, I wonder what happened to that person. I hope they're okay. I hope that they're still working out. You have a thought about them. Now remember that you are that person. You can be that person. Even if you're not making a super direct connection with somebody in class, you are seen when you're here, right? And that can apply to all sorts of different aspects. We just use the gym because clearly we're in the gym. So know that you are seen even if it's not super direct, and that can equally be a form of the buddy system. A reward system. This one's pretty obvious. You can give yourself a reward for reaching different milestones with your goal. Now, the one caveat I'll say with a reward system is be mindful about your why and make sure your reward still contributes to your why. So sometimes we'll get into a kind of vicious cycle, especially if it's around maybe nutrition. We say, oh, if I eat healthy for a week, then I'll give myself a cheat day, right? That isn't necessarily as much a reward. That's maybe a sign to maybe look at our why, maybe reestablish, look at our habit and see if that's really something that is supporting our lifestyle. So be mindful if you go with reward system and try to make sure it still connects to your why. Taking baby steps, so making small incremental change. So if you have a rather ambitious goal that you're trying to reach, try to think about how you can break it up into more manageable pieces week by week or even day by day if it's something you're trying to do every day. And then, of course, one of my favorites is habit stacking. I always lean towards habit stacking because it's such an easy way to add on small things into your day. So if you think of something that you're always going to do and associate your new habit with that thing that you're always going to do as a trigger. So for instance, for me, it's my cup of coffee. There is nothing in this world that could get between me and my cup of coffee. Absolutely nothing. So it is the absolute perfect thing that I go to when I want to establish a new habit. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to meditate every morning. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and attach that to my coffee. I'm going to have it I'm going to meditate as I brew my cup of coffee, as I wait for it to get ready. That's an example of how we can habit stack. So as you look at your goal, I would consider some of these things and see if any of them kind of work for your goal. Not every technique is going to work for every goal, but maybe you take a second and go, okay, yeah, based on what I've written down in the last 3 things, I think the reward system is going to be a really good thing for me, or I think habit stacking is going to be really good. So take a moment to take note of which of these techniques, or maybe there's another technique that you know of, and just note which technique you think is going to really help you out over the next 6 weeks. All right. So now we're on to putting everything together and actually setting that goal. So we did all of the brain power, we did all of the heavy lifting, figuring out what we wanted to do. And now we're going to take a little bit of time to really organize it and putting it in a digestible way. So you can write this out, or you can kind of mark up what you've already written, because basically we're going to take all of the thoughts that we did in our exercises leading up to this, and we're going to organize them in these 7 steps. So you can come back to it and look at it in a pretty organized way. So number 1, we're going to write out our goal. Write out the goal that you chose for the 6 weeks, and you're going to consider your finding your why. Yeah, so the finding your why is going to be where you pull that goal from. After that, number 2, we're going to write out our habit or our action that's going to support that. That is going to come from that first writing prompt that we did. Yeah, your perfect day. That's going to be your habit that supports your goal. Next, we're going to set out a measurement. Now, this might be one that you think about a little bit more because we haven't discussed it. We're going to figure out a way that you can measure this goal. Maybe it's making a tally on a calendar. Maybe it's something numerical. Maybe you did set a goal to lift a certain weight. Okay, you're going to track the number of that, right? Now we're going to take a schedule. How long are you going to track this goal for? You get to cheat on this one. It should be 6 weeks. Yeah. Is it achievable? Is it realistic? Consider your conditions list here. Make sure your condition list lines up and you didn't put a lot of obstacles in your way. Can you complete all those conditions to reach that goal and habit? Obstacles. This is going to be another one. You might take another second to think about this. It might be related to your condition list. What if something gets in the way? Yeah, think about how there could be a hiccup in the plan that you're writing out. What's something that could happen that would deter you from this? And how are you going to handle that? Because that's going to happen. And sometimes even acknowledging that there's going to be an obstacle makes it that much easier to deal with because we knew something was going to happen. And then reward and acknowledgement. So this goes back to maybe if reward was your habit technique, how will you reward this after 6 weeks? Or how will you recognize it? Not everything has to be a reward, but how will you give yourself that recognition? That 7 steps super important, and I see it a lot, especially with new people who are working out for the first time. We forget where we came from, right? Because we get more goals along the way. So that 7 steps really important. You probably will make a lot more progress towards your goal. You'll probably pick up a lot more habits than you give yourself credit for sometimes. So don't forget that 7th part and write out, how are we going to recognize this? And measuring it can help a lot, right? So that measurement can help a lot. So let's take, I don't think we need 2 minutes. Let's just take like 1 minute here and fill in any gaps that you might have from our past writing prompts and finish these 7 steps. So 7 steps to our goal setting for the 6 weeks. Oh, and while we write these out, a big thank you to our timer today, Kayla. Kayla always doing the tough jobs. Wow, worker bee. You come for the content, you stay for the Brittany and Kayla show. Do you guys, have any of you, were you here when we did the live streams together? They're archived. If you go into our Vimeo, you can see hours. See hours of this. Great. Oh, no. Subscribe for more content. No, we didn't get to review it. In fact, there's one of me doing a 20-minute sound check which is incredibly embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I hate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys, that was about a minute. If you need to take a little bit more time, feel free to do so. But those are going to be our 7 steps towards our routine reset goal. And if you decide that you're going to change your goal, that's totally fine. I hope you can take these down as a structure, even if your goal adjusts over the next couple weeks. All right, so up next, we're going to take some time to chat about our goals, because the best way to stay accountable is the buddy system, right? That's why we're all here. So at the beginning of today's presentation, I had everybody write down their name, their location, and the time that they typically worked out in. So we're going to break up into groups based on people that you are most likely to see in classes. See what I did there? So Tequila has been our lovely sorter, and we'll call out our names. We're going to break up into groups, and you don't have to be like super personal if you wrote down something quite personal, but ideally we're going to go ahead and share what our goals are and what our 7 steps are going to be for that goal in routine reset. And that way, even if you never talk to that person again, you will lock eyes with them in class sometime, and they'll know. And you'll know that they know, and they know that you know, and it's a moment. Yeah. All right. So Tequila, can you call out the names of our groups today?